Recorded live in Austin, Texas. This is the ISAA Report, Size Acceptance Radio Online, with your hosts, Alan Stedham and Gia Marciano.
Welcome to another edition of the ISAA Report. I'm Alan Stedham.
And I'm Gia Marciano.
Okay, it's time.
It's time.
Okay, we've been hinting at this for a while. We've been hinting at this for 2 shows.
Hinting.
Okay, now there's an irony here. Because
huge irony.
This is the big announcement that's not a huge announcement, but it's a good thing that it's not a huge announcement in the wrong way.
Absolutely.
Okay. So
we're waiting.
Let's go back in our minds, February of 2003.
Right.
I get contacted by a guy who wants to do a documentary.
Yes.
And it's size related. He gives me the basic premise of it and says, hey, I'm going to be passing through, and do you think we could get together and sit down and, ask you guys some questions?
Yeah.
So I say, okay, let's set this up. It almost doesn't happen.
I remember that.
It almost doesn't happen. And then it's like a rainy day. It's miserable, and this guy is gone through to Dallas to meet with people from the Cooper Institute, our friends at the Cooper Institute.
Yes.
And wasn't able to meet with them. But he was already there, so he came on down to Austin. Okay, meets with us. The guy's name is Morgan Spurlock. And he's doing a documentary called Supersize Me. Mm-hmm. And so he comes in.
Into my house.
Yeah.
I want to say that. Into my house. Rearranges my furniture.
Yep.
Lights my living room.
Yep. But anyway, very nice guy. First off, want to point out, very nice guy.
Very cool guy.
From the start, just lets us know, hey, this is what I'm doing. The premise of my documentary is, he says, I'm going to be just eating McDonald's food for a month. I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound very healthy, but okay. And, then he comes in, and so he wants to get the size acceptance perspective. He says he's going to be talking to, the U.S. Surgeon General, he's going to be talking to researchers and stuff, and so he wants to get the flip side point of view. And so it's like, okay, cool, So, like G says, comes into our house, sets up the lights, everything, gets, cameras going on and everything, and, just asks us some basic questions, and
was very nice when he came here and interviewed us, and
very professional,
and seemed to appreciate our point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a neat experience.
He asked some very good questions too. He seemed very interested in who we were, and he wanted to really get some straightforward, honest answers from us. Some of the stuff was a little more, closer to the surface, like, do you eat fast food? And if you eat fast food, what do you eat? Okay, fine, So we talked about that a little bit, but then we got into more about, what does the organization stand for? How do you deal with this? What's the whole size acceptance thing about? And he asked good questions to me, asked good questions to Gia. We talked about our families. We talked about exercise. We talked about respect, fitness, health.
Which didn't exactly jive with eating McDonald's
for
30 days straight. But hey, it was all right. So it was cool.
Yeah.
So the whole point of this is that the movie came out and
it went to Sundance. Sundance Film Festival.
It screened, and we're not in it.
Yeah. We didn't make the final cut.
The whole angle has shifted of this movie.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, we're not upset about this.
No.
I want to say that first off. We're not upset.
No. It's
editing.
Fine.
Everything was professional from the beginning. But as things got closer and closer, we got in touch with Morgan. We stayed in touch with Morgan. He started a mailing list saying, okay, here's what's the deal, and we're going to Sundance, and we're doing this, and we're doing that. And as it got closer, and then he came live with his website at supersizeme.com, and things started going up.
And I called Alan and said, have you seen any of this? Have you seen the lead picture? It's Morgan with like an entire box of French fries hanging out of his mouth.
Right.
I said, I'm confused.
Yes.
Are we in this thing?
Right.
And why are we in this thing? This is not what we're about. See, so I think it changed. Do you think the premise changed?
Well,
somewhere?
What I think is this. I think, first of all, we must say up front, we have not seen the final cut.
Mm-mm.
we know we're not in the final cut.
Yeah.
We know that we have heard the theme song for the movie. The theme song for the movie is, well, it comes across as a bit size bashing. It comes across that way. Now, an interesting thing happened. The other day, I got emailed by someone who had actually was at Sundance.
Right.
And she runs a blog, and she wrote, she said, hey, I was watching, there was the big buzz about Super Size Me. I mean, people were paying $450 on eBay for tickets to get into this thing. The scalpers were refusing $250 offers for tickets to get into this thing. It's hot. I got to see this thing. And she already had, award weekend passes, some type of deal, and went and saw it. And she wasn't particularly fond of it.
But her big question was...
She saw, the International Size Acceptance Association and the special thanks to at the end. And she sends me an email and says, okay, this movie was not particularly kind to fat people, and then I see your organization's name at the end. What's going on? So, I wrote her back and I said, well, we were interviewed for this as the size acceptance perspective, to give kind of a counterpoint, but we have no control over the editorial process and what gets in the final cut. So if what we were saying does not jive with the main points that the movie was trying to make, or if it was a time constraint, or we don't know why,
right,
it didn't make it in, but it didn't make it in. So I emailed Morgan and I said, I got contacted by this person, and this is what they said. So I just want to ask you, are we in the film or not? And he wrote back and said, didn't make the final cut, but we did, thank your organization in the special thanks to at the end in the credits, along with some other people who didn't make it into the film. So that was really nice of him to do.
That was very nice.
It was very considerate, and again, the consummate professional. So I mean, no matter what people think about the film, whether they love it, whether they hate it, or whatever,
or they're offended, or
whether they think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Right.
We want to put across that the filmmaker himself was professional and courteous, and has been, we consider him a friend in terms of the way that he has communicated with us.
And the way he worked with us and everything. It was great.
If there's a philosophical difference in the way that the direction the film went, we can have the old, agree to disagree on that if that's the way it is.
Yeah,
and it's hard to do that when you haven't actually seen the film.
Right, and plus, we all know a lot can happen in editing.
Yeah,
so.
and in a year's time.
Yeah.